I got a mental health care plan to go see a psychologist, and I developed this self-care mantra, which you're probably familiar with, which is my effort to distill everything down into something quite simple that I could just wrap my head around, and that was I've just got to remember to take my M.E.D.S, M-E.D.S, and that stands for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. People would say to me, "Oh, I hear you've been really sick," and I'm like, "Well, apparently I don't actually feel it. I actually probably feel better than I did before my diagnosis." So, yeah, I think a lot of those.
Just on that, Tim. So the doctor said the horse has bolted, and then you said that you came out of the gates really fast, looking after yourself. But was that from day one? Like, you got the diagnosis, which led to the prognosis 5 to 7 years, and then you said, that's a life-altering moment that I can only imagine and do my best to try to empathise. Initially, were you like, holy shit, all right, let's go, I'm going to take this on? Or did you go, oh, my God, woe is me, I've got kids? How long until you came out of the gates? You know what I mean? How long until you said obsessive? How long until you became obsessive? Days, weeks?
Yeah, because, that period was all a bit of a blur, but I think it was pretty instant. I really felt like I flicked a switch, and I'd look at my kids, and I had some good mates around me, one who was a personal trainer. He designed a bit of a program for me. I started going to the local surf club gym. My wife at the time was an acupuncturist, trained in Chinese medicine. So she was really well connected in that world of sort of complementary medicine. So she found me a nutritionist and an exercise physiologist. I got a mental health care plan to go see a psychologist. And I developed this self-care mantra, which you're probably familiar with, which is my effort to distill everything down into something quite simple that I could just wrap my head around. And that was, I've just got to remember to take my M.E.D.S, M-E.D.S, and that stands for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And so those 4 things became the pillars of my self-care. I'd had a bit of experience with meditation, but I remember when I got my diagnosis, I just knew instantly. I had this really powerful instinct that meditation was going to be really important. I'd done a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. I've since done 3 more. And I have a daily meditation practice. I reckon that's been really powerful. And so I think those 4 things, kind of work together synergistically. And I don't know if there was some kind of study into that sort of regime. I think there's probably some sort of entourage effect in doing those things together. And I felt great. That was the irony. Everyone was like, oh, geez, I've heard you've got this really bad diagnosis, and all these people are kind of feeling sad and sorry for me. And I'm going, yeah, I feel fucking great. Except for language,
Free to say what you want to hear, mate.
It was also carte blanche in my mind to just do whatever made me feel good. So surf as much as possible, spend time with my kids. I just wanted to pour myself into my kids. And my young son, Alex, had just got what I call the early stages of an acute case of saltwater fever. So he was a really keen young surfer. And he dragged me out of bed even during chemotherapy, for that was about 4 months. I was having three weekly cycles of chemotherapy. He dragged me out of bed. He didn't care that I was feeling like crap. He'd go, come on, got to go surfing. So, that was
That's
great.
Therapy right there, huh?
Oh, mate, so precious. Time in the ocean with my young bloke was one of the best things I could do for myself. And so, slowly I think I started feeling like, what, I'm actually feeling really good. And all these things are helping me not just manage the side effects of treatment, but actually feel better than I did before my diagnosis. And so that just inspired me to keep going. And then, I'd encounter research that sort of supported what I was doing. And then, I wrote the book. And once the book came out, I had, some really key people in the world of prostate cancer. The first of which was a woman named Professor Susan Chambers, who is what she calls an oncopsychologist. So she specialises in counselling men with prostate cancer. She read an early draft of my manuscript and just really encouraged me that I had something worthwhile to say. She wrote the foreword to the book. A guy named Professor Declan Murphy, who's the head of urology at the Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre, which is, known as probably the best cancer hospital in Australia, one of the best in the world. He listened to one of my podcasts on Radio National and got in touch, read my book, and he invited me on his own podcast and helped sort of amplify my message. So then I got this support from the medical mainstream kind of endorsing what I was doing. And then I started getting invited to cancer conferences, and I was getting up speaking to rooms full of oncologists and urologists and specialist prostate cancer nurses. And it's been extraordinary, just opportunities I could never have imagined, giving keynotes to pharmaceutical companies and running patient clinics at the Australian Prostate Centre. Wow. Yeah, it's been extraordinary. As they say, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, and I feel like I opened a lemonade factory,